So recently, I put out a podcast questionnaire on my Instagram. It was just said, "Does anyone have any ideas for a podcast episode?" Turns out some people had ideas for a podcast episode, and there were two questions that stuck out. It was, "Are there any good positive role models for people like my age?" And what's the importance of church? I think those two tie in together pretty well, so I'm going to address them in one episode. Um, if you don't think they'll tie in, let me let me show you as we go through the video. It might be a little bit iffy at the start, but we'll tie it in at the end, I promise. So Camp Capono. Camp Capono is great. It's Christian camp. I've been twice. It's probably some of the best experiences in my life. One of the best parts of Camp Capono is the fact that we get camp counselors. I've had the advantage of having two of the best guys that I've ever met, really. Some of the best guys I've ever met. I got Seth and Braden, and they had a profound impact on my life. And the special thing about camp counselors, especially for Camp Capono, is that they're college kids, mostly that kind of age. And that's special to me because, okay, so for me, what's my next step in life, right? I'm gonna get done with high school. I'm gonna start college. Well, that's the norm. Um, and you can find very mature Christians who are older. My dad is one example. My mentor, older guys, and they're great, and I take a lot from them. They got very valuable advice, but it's something very different when you meet a guy that's in your next step in life. That's like 5 years down the road, and they're on fire for Jesus, and they're loving evangelism, discipleship. That's special, especially in my life experiences. Um, so for me, having those camp counselors that were college age, dudes that were on fire for Jesus, it was super encouraging. I had one guy, this guy, he's like super on fire for Jesus. Is super good with theology, very sharp, very quick, could answer questions really well. So very theologically well trained, spiritual, like knew what the faith was about. He knew how to pray for you. It felt very encouraging for him to pray for you. And not only that, he was very intellectual. He would read so many books. Every book you could say, it was almost like he read all of them. So he was hyper intellectual, he was spiritual, he was very well trained theologically. And on top of that, he was super sporty and he was like a big absolute unit, right? And it was like I think I talked about that with my conversation with Kingston. When you see a guy who's like super taking his Christian life seriously, taking his health seriously, taking his mind seriously, like that guy's a beast. Like you don't want to mess with him, right? You suddenly want to take advice from him because it's like the respect goes up a lot more. I had a counselor that was like that, and I came away from that and I said, if I could be anything like him, then that would be incredible. Um, so I do think you can have positive role models nowadays. I just think that um, it takes you to quiet your own mind, to humble yourself, to be able to see them, to find them. I've had a bad track record. People that know me well, I have a propensity towards pride, towards looking inwards rather than upwards, right? Or just not being aware of the good things that I have. I'm very blessed. I have a lot of good things I don't deserve. And a lot of the time I overlook them. And I think that I deserve better, which is like I don't deserve anything I have. And everything I have is too good for me, right? Um and finding good mentors, finding good role models, that ties in. You have to be able to realize they're better than you, that you can learn something from someone. You can learn something from pretty much anyone. Even if they're the worst person ever, you just quiet your mind and just listen to what they're saying. You'll be like, I don't want to do that. Hold up. Maybe he actually said something that I could use that's helpful. When you find someone who's positive, You find someone who's further down the road, more experience, then if you listen to them, if you watch what they're doing carefully, you can take so much good advice from them. This works musically. As you can tell, I'm a musician. I really enjoy writing songs, playing music, singing. Um, I've got there's numerous people in my life that are way better at guitar, or way better at singing, or way better at writing songs, or way better at recording, producing than me. I make sure I watch what they're doing. I make sure I see how they do it. I make sure I see why they're doing the things they're doing. And I'll say, all right, if that fits in well with my style, then I'm going to adapt to that. I'm basically a copycat guitarist. A lot of the things I do is just, I learn it from something I saw on YouTube or something I saw in person. We can, we need to be careful of it, but we can be like that in maturing, in philosophizing our philosophical life, our Christian life. It's helpful to see someone who's maybe your age, or my age. There's plenty of mature Christians that are my age. Keeson's one of them, for example, um, or older than you, and you pay attention, you watch them, you see how they react to situations, you see how they face the challenges of the day. Man, if you just pay attention to that, if you watch closely, you listen, you're like, why didn't I think of that? Um, that can be super helpful. So yeah, you can't find positive role models nowadays. Maybe it's more rare, or maybe it's just you're not looking in the right places, right? Um, that's where you find them. You find them at church. That's where we're gonna tie it into the second question, right? Church. Why is church important? Well, church is important because God said it was important in the Bible. It says, "Do not forsake the gathering of God's people." We're part of the body of Christ, which is the church, right? We're not meant to be alone. Paul talks about the hand can't say to the eye, "I'm better than you. I don't need you." And he was using that as an analogy for saying, like, oh, an elder, someone who's got the spiritual gifts to be an elder, a leader of the church, an overseer of the church, can't say to someone who is giving an offering, I don't need you because I've got the gifts that you haven't. No, we're all meant to complement each other. Why else is church important? Well, in my life experience, church has been one of the most profound impacts of my life. Um, yeah, my voice is shot because I'll be recording some of my original songs that we'll be releasing soon. Church has had a profound impact on my life. My dad's a pastor. I don't really remember many Sundays where we weren't at church. If we were, it was a very special occasion. What's the advantage of being at church? You're around people your age that you're in a Christian environment with them, youth group, Sunday school. That's healthy. Um, you're around older people, like the mentors I've had that love Jesus, that will talk to you for hours about Jesus, that will show you like how they show up to their kids, how they show up to their spouse. Like it's great to see that, to look forward and to be like, if I can learn something from them. You know, church is a place that you can take from in the sense that there's something to take away from the sermons, obviously. There's something to take away from the worship. There's something to take away from just being in a fellowship. Church is also important because there's something you need to give as well. It's our duty as Christians to serve it. Whether that's through music, whether that's through preaching, whether that's through just listening and being receptive to the message, whether that's bringing food. My sister loves baking for church, right? We're meant to serve and to be served in the church. And it's so important for your Christian walk. There's people that I know that's like, oh, I'm a Christian. Yeah, sure. I love Jesus. My relationship with Jesus is great, but I don't need a church. Church is full of trauma, of drama, of nasty people. I'm not gonna go to a church because they're all terrible. Well, churches are full of humans, in case you didn't realize. So of course there's gonna be problems in it. But I think God knew what he was doing when he said, that we need to be in a gathering, when we need to be in a church. Um, and those people that I know that don't go to church, I need to be careful what I say here just in case. Um, a lot of the people that I've met, it almost seems like their spiritual growth is stunted a little bit or slowed down. That's just an observation. It's not a judgment. I think that when you're in church, you can grow a lot more. And I think that that's what it's supposed to be, right? Like Paul says to some of the people in the church, he says, right now you're on spiritual milk, soon you'll be on spiritual solid food. If they stop going to church, it's pretty hard for you to progress. Because part of that is just living life, right? Why else is church important? We're not meant to be in a huddle, right? There's a lot of holy huddles where they don't want to go out and evangelize. That's not what church is supposed to be. Church is supposed to evangelize, go out and meet disciples of all nations, reach the lost, help people out, whether that's financially, especially spiritually, physically. That's what we're supposed to do as a church. It's meant to care for the poor and desperate people. We're also meant to disciple. The people that are saved, we need discipling. We can't do this walk alone. We're meant to do our Christian walk with other people. We're meant to just live life with other people. I always imagine, I'm like, so many of my relationships, so many of my friendships, my life experiences with people are built around I knew them at church. If I didn't have that, I'd be a pretty lonely person. And I think that's exactly what church is for, right? It's for that community. And it helps us grow as people, it helps us grow spiritually. Um, and it helps us serve spiritually, right? That's what we're made for. We're meant to be in a community. Humans are made for other people. So positive role model. You can find positive role models for sure. Look for them in the right places. Listen out and look for them. Don't think everyone else is beneath me. Don't do that. Think I can learn something from anybody, especially from the people at church. Church is God's it's God's command for us to be served, to be poured into, and for us to serve and to pour into. Our humans just need it so much. When you don't have that, things just fall apart. Well, thank you for listening. I enjoyed talking about that. If you have any more questions, I'd be happy to address them. That was really fun. We should do that more often.